Welcome, everyone. So we're live. Welcome to our live stream that we do on a Sunday night. We've got Alex with us and special guest Jesse. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Thanks for having me,
guys.
Yeah.
Good.
Sorry for talking.
So why don't we do a? Sorry, what was that?
I'm just talking over everyone right off the hop.
Well, we expect nothing less from you.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, Austin Casey, no Rob Fanuff. Rob has ditched us tonight, as has Jeremy. Jeremy claims to be stuck in traffic. Austin Casey. I like it. Yeah, so do we, mate. You know, sometimes it's good not to have dad around, or granddad in Rob's case. So yeah. So tonight, we'll start with a bit of a hobby catch up, but then we're kind of going to do a bit of a spotlight on the northern area. So, guys, let's start with you, Alex. What are you been up to?
I'm still working on some terrain for King Beyond the Wall. I have like a big box of hills that I've been chipping away at. I have a nice giant dining room table that I like to turn into a hobby space, every few months. But currently, Margaret is working on a giant puzzle on it, so I'm doing little jobs here and there. I'm waiting for the next week where I could just put the tarp down and just turn the entire dining room into a terraforming outfit, building hills and trees. And then,
I was going to ask what Margaret thinks of when you take over the dining room table.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't mind because her business takes over about half the house during Christmas. So as long as it doesn't interfere with that, but yeah, as of October, pretty much the dining room, we converted the master bedroom into her office already. So we have a king size bed in a room that's about 2 feet wider than a king size bed.
So, it's efficient use of space.
Yeah, well, it's like you just need room for the bed. What else?
Yeah.
Do, right.
Yeah.
So yeah, most of the house, half the house, is for her. So
I had an instance last. Yeah, nice. I had an instance last night where my king-size bed wasn't big enough. My 2-year-old was in bed with me, and she kept coming over and over to cuddle. And at one point, so she doesn't fall off, my side is pushed up against a wall. I was facing the wall. My forehead was on the wall, and I was trying to fall asleep.
It's amazing how much space they can take up.
Yeah, yeah. This is meant to be a king-size bed. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah,
sorry, you go.
Sleep in the bed, and not that dogs and children are the same, but they're roughly the same size. So run into the same problem occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so that's mostly you. So no painting for you, Alex?
No, I keep meaning to, but the temperature is finally. I'm not in a tank top. I don't have the AC running tonight because the temperatures here are finally at a level where I don't hate being in my office. So I feel like painting is going to happen pretty soon. I have to get my Rhodia done before I just
it's coming up.
As we'll find out, there are a lot of events in real life happening up here, so I got to get some stuff sorted out quickly.
And that's true. And toddlers and animals. Jesse, so what have you been up to, mate?
I've been painting up a storm recently. About a month ago now, I picked up an airbrush finally. So I've just been cracking out my undead for the most part, and then I've been working on some ratkin, and the latest edition was I had a Abyssal Dwarf Army commission printed, so that's next on the chopping block. So tons to paint still, as well as getting a bunch of terrain done for an upcoming tournament as well.
Okay. So how many units of Soul Reaver infantry?
Pardon? Oh,
how many units of Soul Reaver infantry?
I mean, four should be fine. It'll just future-proof all my builds.
Yeah.
But yeah, no.
For those of you who don't follow the forums or the Facebook groups, Jesse basically, when he wants to, paints like an army every 3 weeks. So him getting an airbrush means there's going to be an endless stream of broken fully painted armies in Ontario now.
You can't get angry if it looks good when it tables you.
Have you found it hard had you used an airbrush before, Jesse?
No, I hadn't. I had done a fair bit of research prior to purchasing it and just caught up on different hobby tutorials, etc. So I was a lot more intimidated by it to begin with than it actually, what I'm trying to say is it was a lot easier to end up using than I expected. So the transition wasn't too bad. And it's really just sped up the base coding processes and really let me get into some unique color blending opportunities. I mean, the army that I'm using it for is a bit of a unique one in terms of like color composition. So I don't think in like a traditional army, it's going to speed things up quite as fast for me. But for the undead, it's been incredible.
Yep.
Yeah, it's definitely made me very jealous, and I'm gonna have to upgrade very soon.
Honestly, would an airbrush even speed you up, Alex?
I don't know. Well, that's the thing. I'm just terrible at time management. When I'm actually painting, I'm pretty quick. It's just me getting my life together enough so I can paint regularly.
Yeah. I'm totally the same, right? It comes to the time where I might have time to paint, and I'm like, but now I've got to get organized to actually paint, and it's that next step, and then I just go Total War instead, or I'll watch TV or something. Yeah. Well, I haven't done since our last stream. I haven't done any hobby at all except play UB. So we've had a couple of local tournaments going. We've got a new one coming up soon called Coronacles. So that's where one of the locals has done some special characters or troops named after the various states that are in lockdown here.
Oh, nice.
And they have different special rules. So that's going to be good fun. And so one finished up this week, and then we'll be rolling into our next one next week.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah. And and speaking of UB, I think Jesse, you've got a tournament upcoming.
Yeah, I do. Starting up next week, we have the Digital Throne Highlander rules. So it's a 5-round tournament played at 2,000 points with a special character for every army. And the unique build for this one is that you can only take one of each unit from your core list. So that would be either one horde, one troop, one regiment of a unit. You wouldn't be able to double down. And it's just going to encourage some different build diversity and see what can happen. I've had a few of the lists uploaded already, and you can still do pretty terrible things with singles. So it's it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, right.
Well, yeah, it's nice because
you go, Alex.
Yeah, it's nice after there's a small discussion about skew a couple of weeks ago. That just all ended in everyone agreeing that it's just not a problem. So it's kind of nice to have a tournament where you can't do any skew. Or spamming of units. Like I think
you can't spam. You could still skew. I've seen some skew.
Yes,
but
did you, when you're putting that together? Obviously, you're an experienced TO, and I think we all are here. And whinge is going to whinge.
Yeah.
What was the main feedback that you expected, I guess, or that you were concerned about?
I was concerned with some armies in regards to unlock options, but I went through and ensured there was a handy graph that I can't remember. Do you remember who made
that? Matt Carmack, I think.
Yeah. So I went through a bunch of his analytics, and I think the lowest total number of unlocks available is 7. So it was still possible to do any of these builds. And as a bit of a fail-safe, I made the free special character for every army also provide inspiring, so you could free up and unlock there. That was my biggest concern, was going to be some armies looking at tough unlock options, but I went through and tried different builds with, I want to say like 20 or so different armies, and everyone was able to make something pretty competitive. Yeah. And like for this one, it was more about just testing out units that you wouldn't normally see on the table, right? I mean, we've all played enough of our fine-tuned 2,000, 2,300 point lists. I just wanted to mix it up a little and also kind of bring light that triples and doubles aren't the core of what can break the game. It's the players. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see.
It's good timing because we're going into Clash of Kings in November, so everyone has had almost 2 years with the lists as they are, because last year wasn't much of an update. So now it's now is the time to pull out that one unit or a few units that you've never used before, and just you're kind of forced into it, try to make something work.
Well, and UB's the perfect platform, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like you paint it up and, you're not ruining anyone's collection by doing that or their tournament experience, but maybe they'll find something that works that they'll add to their collection.
Yeah.
I mean, I think my main concern when I looked at it was less the unlocks and more, but it's been fixed kind of with that character, is the inspiring options. So for some armies like Trident Realms, they have a lot of conditional inspiring,
Right.
which post-cock won't be an issue, but
Yes.
currently is. So, but I think, like you say, the special character helps that for sure.
Yeah, it helps mitigate it a little. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Alex.
Special character. What is the special character?
It is a Highlander. It's basically a little combination inspiring duelist guy. He's melee 3, 5 attacks, defense 5, crushing 2, spell word, because I wanted to bring in a little bit of the halfling keywords and not have him lightning bolt off the table turn 1. Let me just pull up. I want to get the exact thing here. I should have my rule pack up to begin with. But,
oh, you didn't know we would be talking about it?
No.
Yeah, just
I had memorized this.
Sunday night.
Yeah. Yeah. So Highlander is hero infantry, unit size 1, speed 6, melee 3, no ranged, defense 5, height 2, 5 attacks with dash 14 nerve, and he comes with CS2, spell word, duelist, inspiring, mighty, and elite. So he's a little bit of a combat kit right there.
Yeah.
And he could be problematic for individuals in the back line, but everyone has one, so just have fun with them.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, and sorry, it is 2,300 points, Jesse.
It's 2,000. 2,000 points plus that free character.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
So how many
have you signed up, Alex? Are you returning to UB?
I'm not. I'm thinking about it, but I'm starting a new position at the school in October, so like my October is a little busier than I would like to commit to weekly games on UB.
I think you need to get your priorities right, mate. Yeah. What's this career bullshit you're talking about?
Yeah.
I'm still very tempted. I probably will sign up just because.
Clocks or no clocks, Jesse?
I will encourage clocks. I believe in the pack there is a clock contingency. That's just my preference when it comes to UB tournaments.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll have to double check. I combined a few of my packs at once and might have missed it. Yeah, I will be adding back in the clock contingency because I did miss that. Yeah, okay. But yeah, like 75 minutes per side is more than enough in this case at 2,000 and
2,000 points.
Yeah.
Getting some shade thrown at you.
I'll have you know that I only drop a couple places with clocks versus no clocks in overall standings.
It is definitely a problem on UB though, isn't it? Because you have all the arcs and everything, like you can literally take your time and pretty much make sure that you don't make a mistake, if you are a good player anyway.
Yeah.
But a movement mistake, that is. But I totally agree. I think that's the best thing is using
playing in real life last week was just very bizarre when you actually have to like fit the arc of sight template down on the table. And then I have unit template, like blank unit bases for all the unit sizes. And I had taken them out of my bag a couple weeks ago, and then I was like, I don't have them. So we're just like, we're measuring out, it's just hilarious because like you get so used to the convenience.
But don't you think also that probably it seems on tabletop you do a lot more of that and you still get it right? You just do it more intuitively.
Yes.
So you kind of like, and you don't have to go back and forth and like click on them to get the arcs and everything. But you don't necessarily make heaps more mistakes.
Oh yeah, I definitely you do more futzing around just cause you can.
Yes.
And it doesn't necessarily make it better. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So why don't you guys have a fair bit happening up north? Why don't you take over and steer us through it, Alex?
All right. So in real life, talking about real life gaming, I have my King Beyond the Wall. Well, mine. It's a group effort, but the King Beyond the Wall 2 tournament coming up in October. It's the October 23rd, 24th weekend we're going to be holding it at our Royal Hamilton Light Infantry Veterans Association. So it's a licensed event. We'll have plenty of room, up to I think 20 tables, so nicely spaced out over two adjoined rooms. So everyone will have plenty of space for any safety concerns. We'll have our own bar and stuff like that. It's the same venue we used last time, which was 2 years ago, and we'll have we've been upgrading our terrain throughout. We were doing it last year, and we've redoubled our efforts this summer to kind of like make a slightly larger terrain pieces, slightly nicer terrain pieces, just because last time it was like a bit of a rush to get everything ready for the first time we were running an event of that size. But I think the community is really coming together. We got lots of people making terrain, donating mats, all sorts of stuff, offering to help. So I think it's a good way for the community to come together, and I think everyone was very keen to get back to real life gaming and just to be part of the community again, because we've stayed pretty close and tight as a group through the whole last 2 years, even without being able to meet in person. So I think we got some people that I've never met before signed up, which is pretty exciting, in the Buffalo area and in southern Ontario. So I think it's going to be a really good way for everyone to get back together and get some really high quality gaming in. I think got some guys from the States coming up, because while we can't go into the States right now, US
one-way border.
The US guys can come over here. So, like the one thing we do have, they have to be vaccinated to come over the border, and it's going to be we're getting a vaccination passport system here starting next week. So
okay,
it'll be
how many? Sorry, how many you got signed up?
I think we have about 18 signed up now.
Okay, and capacity for how many?
40.
Okay, yeah, awesome.
So we got, and I know there's a lot of people that haven't signed up that are going to. So I think we're going to be well into the 20s pretty comfortably, and then but we're gonna have lots of room, because I know you, Jesse, you have a few guys coming down with you.
Yeah, there'll be at least, I'm going to assume 4 from North Bay here that'll come down. I will just put them in the car and drive them.
Yes.
Tie them up and bring them to the tournament.
Yeah, there's going to be a bunch of crews from all over, which is going to be great, because I think it was about a 4 or 5 hour bubble that we draw from. And because the guys from Buffalo are coming up, I think some of the guys from guys from Massachusetts, like K2, who's on the Orc Army Review, he's bringing some guys from the New England or Northeast War Kings. Guys from Toronto and guys from Oshawa are coming. So it's going to be a really good turnout, and no special rules. Like it's going to be 1995. So it's kind of, we've been playing 2300 quite a lot on UV and just in general. So, be a nice way to, like, if people have been working on new armies over the pandemic, but have kind of slowed down some progress, 1995 is a little more attainable for a rush job at the end to kind of get something new on the table. And it's just a little friendlier, according to Steve Hildrew.
Yeah. I was about to bring up the article myself. I was going to say, so it seems like you agree with everything Steve says.
Steve is always right. Let's just face it.
Yeah. I'll show you how friendly my 1995 list is.
Yes.
And will you be playing yourself, mate, or are you just going to tee up?
I'm going to be the ringer, so it depends on how many people. I'd like to, but it's going to be dependent on how many people. If there's an odd number, then I'll jump in, and I'll build a non-filthy list for once.
Yeah, I was going to say, we've been talking about ringer armies a bit recently. So what's your approach to the ringer role going to be? Because obviously you're a very good player, so that's one side of it.
Yeah, I have a mental block on making non-filthy lists. I tested out a ratkin, because my ratkin army is I have 4,000 or 5,000 points of painted rats. So I was like, I can just build a fluffy rat list, and I tested that out over the last couple of weeks, and I was told that it is not a ringer list.
All the drain life, all the heal.
I only had one brood mother. Anyway, no shock troops for once. It was, but so I'll probably build a bit of a one of everything kind of list, either with what I have available for Rordia or Rats, and just kind of, or borrow one of Jesse's 19 armies.
It's true. I'll bring down a couple.
And but I think like we were talking about that too. It's like partly list and it's partly how you play it. When I was the ringer for half the tournament last year or 2 years ago, and it was a pretty beat stick herd list with not a lot of chaff though. And I just kind of played it where I tried to engineer situations that let me roll as many dice as possible, or just put myself in a position that confused the opponent. Like just did something weird. Like I'm like, this
you're
is gonna
coming
be
last.
funny.
Let me confuse you.
The way I ran the ringer was just as a normal competitor. So I just got a random draw, and then I just played through
gotcha.
the normal player.
Yeah,
I wasn't playing the last place. So I was just playing it as a straight up player, and I would just do things that would just be weird. Like, this is going to be funny, so let's see what will happen. And like, how many dice can I engineer a flank charge with the Stampede, even if it's not advantageous? I just want to roll 60 dice, kind of thing.
Well, that's actually a really good point. That's different on ringers, right? Is you can approach the ringer role in different ways, whether they're just basically a competitor and part of the normal draw. In that case, you probably should be giving almost as good a game as you can, or like trying to be confusing or whatever. But then there's where the ringer plays last place. So I think there's a few different ways to run it. We typically run it as ringer plays last place at Clash of Kings, but the way if I step in is I just kind of go, if there's a YOLO opportunity, I'll take it.
Exactly. And I'll just play faster than I would normally play, because obviously I'm a methodical player, so I'll just play quickly so that I can get back to the scorers table and like sort the next round out. Kind of thing. So
so you're not going to take the advice of this Facebook user who hasn't allowed StreamYard, so we can't see their name. Yeah.
No, I only have 8 or 10 warrior regiments. So
I'll get you most. What are they worth?
85 points. 85 points.
Right.
So
furry goblins.
Yeah.
Oh,
Kyle.
There's half your list.
Kyle.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, I'll figure something out. But yeah, I think it's going to be a toned down list. That's hopefully I can get enough humans painted in time. Because once I have my system of painting is actually pretty good now. I just haven't been at the painting table for 6 months, so I just need to do it. But so in 2 weeks, I think 2 weeks after my tournament, Jesse's got a 1-day tournament up in North Bay, which is the culmination of one of the topics we wanted you to talk about. The Slow Grow League, right? So I talked about both.
Yeah, so I'll start with the Slow Grow League, because that's kind of where this came to fruition. So back in July, I ended up moving back to my university town. Mid-pandemic, I decided to get out of the city. So moved back there. Beginning of July, we used to have a pretty decent Kings War community. It kind of fizzled out a little bit over time. So I came back, started up a Slow Grow League with a bunch of the guys that I was still familiar with, a couple new guys, started up some chats, and I put together basically a long-running tournament where the primary goal is just to let everybody build up a 2,300 point army over 2-week round increments. And yeah, so far it's been great. I had 10 guys sign up. The cool part was that 3 of them were brand new to Kings of War and tabletop gaming entirely. So a lot of us came together and would either lend armies or units to people, give them painting tutorials, etc. So yeah, I think we are now heading into round 4. How it started was we started with a 500 point match. So basically you need 2 to 4 units max to play your first game, get lent out, whatever. And yeah, we've been running everything through Tabletop TO. I've been keeping track of all of the different stats and painting points in an Google Doc. And yeah, it's been great.
I think it's
how good's tabletop TO for
it's
and
incredible.
I have approached him based on some of our conversations, and we're looking at getting him to add separate columns for bonus points so that those tournaments, particularly US, that have sports and paint will be able to add both.
Yeah.
I mean, because otherwise it's just a good system. It just doesn't quite accommodate people like Jesse, as you said. You have to keep a separate dock for those kind of things. So we're looking to remove that from the equation because he's a local to me. So hopefully it'll get better.
Hopefully by mid-October.
Yes, I'll ask him.
Nudge. So how have you found like because I know small points level games can be a little tricky, but I guess you kind of like grew through them pretty quickly, but you found that they still, people were still interested throughout the small
absolutely.
points games.
I mean, it had been a little bit since a few of the guys had played, and quite a few of the guys are brand new. So I found it kind of like an incremental learning system for the game, where if you start out with like one chaff piece, one hammerish unit, or like an inspiring source, horde, etc., it kind of lets you fine tune the mechanics as you're going. And every round, now you're adding one more piece to the puzzle, and it's kind of helping really instill the core skill set for the game. And it makes it a lot more manageable and less intimidating for the new guys, because there isn't 10, 20 pieces on the board and they're trying to figure out everything. So the other thing I wanted to make sure that it wasn't like purely competitive based was that everybody will also get points for units painted. They get points for bonus games played. So it helps build the community in that aspect as well. And I like that. Because I wanted to make sure that like your win-loss wasn't the biggest thing to worry about. It's how much hobby can you get in, how many extra games can you play with the other guys in the community to kind of like interknit everyone a little bit better. And it was just really focusing on the community building aspect of it. So so far it's been great. We're currently heading into round 4, like I said. So we're adding 1250, I believe, is where we're going to be sitting now. So we're starting to get into like a little bit more dense in terms of the table, which has been nice. And feedback's been great. Watching some of the new guys paint up their armies has been super cool. And it's just been a solid experience so far.
Yeah, it's really you go first, Alex.
I just said something I saw on one of the groups recently. It was like there's a couple new players playing, and it's something that I don't really think about much, because we always play at 2,000 points roughly. We play full games, so you don't really run into stuff like this. But whereas like he was talking about how certain things were I think it was like Frostfang regiments.
I think I know the post.
And it was like he was like talking about how they're totally broken or useless. I can't remember which, because which doesn't actually matter, because it's just the scale of the game. Like at the smaller points levels, you think certain things. Well, the balance is off, because certain things are overpowered at small points levels, and some things aren't as useful.
Yeah,
and you don't have as much chaff to set up your hammers, so you can't. So I think it's actually an interesting learning process where you go through smaller points levels. You think things are broken because it's not doing what you think, or one thing's doing something that you think is way overpowered. But then as the game sizes grow and you get more elements on the table, you start to realize, oh wait, I was wrong. It's like you actually have to, there's more things going on than just raw stats or just this or just that. Like you actually have to play the game, make sure everything's interacting appropriately, so to get the most out of everything. And like that thing that I thought was completely broken is actually very manageable if I'm playing against it, or now I know how to get the most out of it as a player, because I'm slowly learning how to like add more elements to my, my play style.
Yeah,
totally. And cool. Also depends on what your opponents are building too. So depending on the nature of the slow grow, right? I think people will tend to drift towards the things where they have to pay less models.
Yes.
And something like a Frostfang Horde, which is what, 260, 270 points.
Yeah.
Even at a 1,000 point level, is likely to be way better than something that's 220 points. Right. Yeah. So that theoretically sit in a similar space.
Right.
So, but if you were building, like rats, and decided, oh no, I can paint 50 models in 2 weeks, you'd be able to counter that more easily.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think there's so many variables in a slow grow, aren't there, Jesse? Like you got to have your time frame long enough for people to be able to paint, and the points difference long enough, but then not too long so that they don't get, so they don't miss out or get bored. And then the overall time frame not being too long. Yeah. I'd be really interested in seeing your pack.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can definitely send that over. It's been a very delicate balancing the timeline aspect of it, I've found. Just like there have been a couple rounds that have run a little bit longer than anticipated. But at the same point in time, my primary goal is community building. So I'm not going to penalize players for not having the ability to get the match in time. So there's been a couple extensions here and there. It's just kind of like friendly pushing along. Just be like, hey, guys should do this sooner than later.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so far it's been great. And like there's been like 2 or 3 of us that have hobby tables that have been hosting the majority. So a lot of the time with the new guys, we'll have like an experienced guy kind of watching and just kind of like giving not tips in the game, but if they have any questions, they're easily clarified. So like we're not running into any rules issues or like misunderstandings early in the game, which has been nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that bonus points for extra games too, because I think that would help with that boredom factor of keeping people engaged. I find it even on like UB tournaments, if they're 2 weeks, by the time they roll towards the end, I'm like, oh man, this has been going forever.
If you play your game on the Monday or the Tuesday of the first week, and then you play 3 weeks later because you can't schedule it until the second half, it's just it's hard to stay focused. But especially with the smaller games, you can play 2 or 3 games in one afternoon.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you could even look at something like bonus points for not just more games, but for the amount of different opponents you play. Yeah. I mean, I think you got the wrong people if someone's trying to get 3 points in a night just because they want to win the slow grow. But
there is a cap. There's a cap on the total points for everything. Just I mean, if people want to play more games, go for it. I mean, there's no prizes, so if people are trying to break the slow grow, they can go for it.
Are you doing 250 point increments, or what are the increments?
Yeah, the increments are 250 points to keep it manageable. That way, it can be as little as 1 unit or 2. The new guys are all masochists. I recommended ogres as a starting army for many people just because of the low model count, but instead they went with goblins, forces of nature, and I believe ratkin. So yeah.
Although forces of nature could be relatively low model count.
Yeah, but he doesn't like trees. So
in general or just tree models?
I don't know. Model wise for sure.
That's a longer discussion.
Yeah. Eventually he'll get the Wilt Father, and then that'll just be 1 unit done for the round.
Yes.
So that'll be a fun and also dark timeline for our slow grow league.
Talking about when people realize things are broken. That's a good time for a community when someone drops like the first like truly like overpowered thing on the table, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, somebody brought Showbit at 750 and it was I watched the game, I was like, ooh.
No paladin dragons yet.
No. I think there was an undead dragon at like 750 as well. A couple of the guys are experienced, and when they played each other, were like, all right, we're gonna take the gloves off and just break 750 points, which ends up being like 2 hammers and some form of inspiring.
Yeah. Oh dear.
And then go ahead, Matt.
No, I was just, now you go.
Okay, I was gonna say, so this is all going to end up kind of culminating in your tournament up. Was it November 8th or?
November 6th is the plan. Yeah. So that was actually, I had a different tournament plan for the end of the Slow Grow League, but I was given an opportunity. There's a bunch of old Warhammer Fantasy guys in the area. And they also dabble in like a little bit of Bolt Action, a couple other game systems. So we all kind of met up and discussed wanting to do like an open hobby day at the local Legion. So I ended up spearheading the Kings of War side of it. So we're going to have, I guess it'll essentially being like a small convention in terms of like hobby stuff.
Very cool.
So that's the plan for that one. So November 6th, that'll be a 2,300 point tournament. 3 rounds, 1 day, pretty standard stuff for a 1 day. No special rules. We kind of just want to get back to some normal gaming. It'll be one of the first like local tournament options.
Right.
And by that time, most of the Slow Grow guys should be in good shape for it as well. And whoever needs anything, I'll just provide them with extra models, etc. So yeah, it'll be good.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm looking to make it up there because Margaret has some friends because she went to university up there too. So got some friends up there.
Yeah, nice. And I think that's important when you expect maybe to bring new people into the game. I think just running it out of the book is a really good idea, right?
Yes.
Because these things with special characters, more often than not, they'll favour the experienced gamer, right? Because they'll be able to synergize them better than someone that's newer to the game. So, I think it's important that we still see these tournaments that are out of the book, particularly if you expect to be trying to pick up players.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Alex.
Oh, no, I was just agreeing. I was just like, it's a good way to just. There are lots of tournaments out there that try to be unique, so that now just being straight out of the book kind of is a different kind of unique.
Yeah.
So yeah, because like up here in the Northeast, like almost all the tournaments are like 2,300 points, and like Orktown is always bigger. Like I think next year it's going to be 2,600, and I think Unplugged usually is around 2,000 points too. So it's good to that's why I usually keep King Beyond the Wall around 2,000, and this year is 1995, just to kind of keep it a little bit different, so that you can't just run the same list every tournament. But you don't. I think once you get more tournaments, you can start doing weirder things. But I agree, because Southern Ontario is still a relatively new, like, competitive Kings of War scene.
Yeah.
So I think we need to keep it pretty straightforward for now, just before we start developing more events.
Yeah, points level is a really interesting point. We had a situation in Australia once. It was one group of guys, and I haven't heard this regularly. I'd be interested if you guys have heard it. But for new players, particularly because multi-basing is a thing, where they come in and they're like, "Oh, it's really annoying that you have all these different points levels because we can't just, necessarily build just 2,000 points and then play it across a variety of tournaments."
Right.
And I can totally see that point. But I can also see that, I don't want to play the same points level over and over and over again. And so I think it's hard to kind of find something that works for both camps, isn't it?
I think, a lot of people who came from Warhammer, that was just like 2,000 points or 3,000 points or whatever. Like it was just the tournament standard points level. And that was it. I don't think it really changed much between events at all, ever. So we have a local guy who's like, I paint 2,000 points of every army that I build, and that's my list. And you're like, sorry, like, it's the community likes variation, like, and the way the game rewards it. Like, I think I think with a game like Kings of War, where things are relatively, like, quote unquote simple, like small changes can have big effects. And I think that's like going from 2,000 to 2,200 or 2,300, like adding a couple units, taking a couple out, makes a big change to a list when things are so tightly balanced and so so simple. So I think it's just a really easy way to make something very different, because I think balance, skew, spam aside, like, the game is just different at different points levels. Like at 1,800, 2,000, 2,300, like, there's just different ways to play it. Like, certain things work, but the game is different. So I think that's just a really big strength to Kings of War. So I think trying to say, well, we should just play one points level, it's a tough thing to get used to, and it's unfortunate, like you said, for new players. But I think once you get over that hump and accept that and appreciate it, that's huge. I think it makes a very big difference.
So basically, someone asking for your tournament, Alex, whether they could attend for one day.
If
you've caught him, live, RK.
I think this is Ryan. Yeah, I think he was. I would recommend going for both days. If you want to be the ringer for one of the days, like that's what happened last 2 years ago. Matt couldn't make it for the Saturday, so I was the ringer on Saturday, and then Matt wanted to play, so he got to be the ringer on Sunday. So
I used to be quite hard on 2 days or nothing, but the reality is if you have a ringer, you can be flexible, right? So
basically, if if there's a slot available, then we can do it.
Yeah, and I mean, there's also the possibility for open gaming before or after as well.
Oh yeah, there's going to be gaming Friday night and Saturday night.
Yeah.
It's at the Veterans Association, and we have it as long as we're doing something. So.
Yeah, you can have some friendly games against Alex with his themed lists.
Yeah.
Do
you know what you'd take up to the one dayer, Alex?
I'm trying to get my Rordia ready for that. That's the ultimate goal. Like, I know I might not get it done for the 23rd, but it's going to be done for the one day in North Bay for sure. So, sorry,
I'm
guys.
not looking forward to seeing that on table.
Yeah. So we're getting pretty close now to 2 months until Clash of Kings comes out. Slightly less than 2 months. Alex, we've probably heard a little bit about your desires, but we can ask that. Jesse, what would you really like to see in this new book?
Oh man.
Yeah, question without notice.
Yeah.
That's
a good one. I don't know. For me, I think it's already being addressed from what I've heard, is that like the change to conditional inspiring is huge to me. That was one that I've kind of been looking forward to, or hoping that might be a possibility, because that one change is going to really shake up build variety more so than any other change that I could think of. So that one's big. I am looking forward to the new special characters for the units that didn't, or armies that didn't get them in Halpies. They're always kind of fun to play around with. For me, I just kind of want to see, I really would love to see formations again. I really liked them back when they were a thing. I know they're kind of a hit and miss for some people. I don't think it's on the chopping block, but we'll see. That would be the big one for me. I enjoyed formations, but I guess the counter to that is that if a lot of the underutilized units are being brought up, it's just as good as a formation bonus, because that was generally what they were supposed to do. Small exceptions being the Flying Circus Basilia one and double Soul Reaper infantry.
Bring back a Lotus Coven.
Yeah, come on. It was fine.
A Lotus is totally overcosted. It's fine. It balances it out.
Yeah.
And I mean, I agree on the conditional inspiring thing. I mean, when that was announced, to me, that's the thing that stood out. I mean, my prediction is what we'll see is, an early swing towards those like large infantry style scoring unit characters.
Troll bruisers are going to be even a bigger steal now than they ever were.
Yeah, depending on what else comes in, I think there's also some really good individual characters, and things with like Duelist or whatever, that now all of a sudden are so much more flexible. So I think as it works out, I don't think that'll necessarily be a staple. I think the scoring ones are still likely to be slightly better under that change, but I agree. I think we're going to see much more variety. Like armies like Trident Realms, right? Are a classic.
It's going to be massive.
It's finally. I mean, it'll probably mean just more Death by Rotation. But
as for tradition.
But and who knows? You may or may not be happy about formations. So
Well, it's gonna have a big effect on your Abyssal Dwarves, right, Jesse?
It's gonna be massive for the Abyssal Dwarves. I mean, immediately I throw the Inspiring Talisman out the window.
Yeah, because now you're the Ironcaster and the Half-Breed both inspire everyone.
Yeah, that is a huge change to my core, and it will allow me not to be deploying the same battle group every single game. Which is
because Abyssal Dwarves are so hard done by, typically.
Yeah, and it's terrible. It's terrible. They need some buffs.
I'm just sad that
Breeze would be a big one for me. That's probably what I want most out of Clash of Kings.
I'm just bummed that the Baron is like, conditional inspiring. It was like, I don't take halflings, so I don't really care about the conditional inspiring for the Baron.
Although having said that, some of the halfling characters in previously I think were cool, that were halfling only. So
I actually have quite a few like War Games Atlantic halfling boxes on my shelf, so I'm pretty excited to add some halflings to the Cult of the Raven at some point.
Yeah, well, potentially you might see more of that Mike Zettelmeyer style orc list. Do you know what with the quite cheap characters that can still inspire but go in front, and you're still only paying like 85 points for a mounted character or something. Yeah, you might see a few more list builds like that, because they can duel as like being behind or in front of your lines, you know, grounding flyers.
Those defense 5, like 11, 13 inspiring characters, like that's high value.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, an individual is just still such a great special rule. Yeah.
Yes.
Do you have a love list or a wish list, Alex? What's at the top?
Well, I think everyone knows my hate list. So
I thought you loved wingets.
They're fine.
I love to hate them.
No nerf cock. No nerf cock.
They got to sell miniatures, but no, I think I to the conditional inspiring point, like I do like the idea of the large infantry characters. They've been a huge pain in my butt in a few games, in the last year. But I really like the idea of like the ogre palace guard captain, the troll bruiser, those, and like the snow troll prime. Those are all like really, I like those kind of things. So I think that's gonna be fun. But I think I'm just really curious to see what the new units are.
Yeah,
I keep hearing about new units incoming, and like sometimes someone will say like, there's this army's getting X number of new units, and I'm like, cool. What are they? Like, not telling you. So I'm like, I'm really excited because there's a few. Now
that I know that annoys you, I'll start doing it more.
But I think back to our episode that we had like way back. I don't even remember, but we were talking about the theme lists and some of the pointless lists. I really want the pointless lists to have a point. Like I think Brother Mark, Sylvankin, and like Herd and stuff like that. Like, Keith does this thing with Herd and he's amazing with it, but this is because Keith is amazing with like he's
It's not commonly winning, right? It's not commonly.
I just think those lists have so much character available to them. I really want their unit selection and rules to reflect that, because I think they're really cool. Like I love the idea of a Brother Mark army. I really Sylvankin I hate elves, but it's a cool theme. Like I really like the idea of them. And same thing with like Herd. I have a Herd army, and I just like I'm not Keith Conroy, so I'm not good with it.
Yeah, no. Would you be pro or against old units making returns?
I think it depends on the unit. Like I don't like if a Stampede came back. I think that would almost be like I would almost be disappointed in the RC for caving. I'd just be like, you know what? There's all the whiners out there just need to like move on. Like I think Minotaur Chariots just need like a tweak because they're not good. Okay. But certain things like Giant Eagles would be an awesome comeback unit. But
okay. Yeah, that was a great unit in version 2, wasn't it? I forgot about Giant Eagles.
Yeah.
That's so cool. It's like defense 4, TC, like large cab. They had Fury for some reason, which was very confusing to me. But I really like the idea of that unit.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. All right. Well, do we have anything else to discuss?
No, I think
that covers most of it.
Make sure you guys sign up for King Beyond the Wall. I'll be posting the tournament pack and making some posts this week for that. And October 23rd, 24th in Hamilton. It's going to be awesome. All you guys in the States can come here. No problems. So I know Blake Schroed from Michigan. He was talking about coming to one of the Michigan GT TOs. So I think if we can get a good crew from New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Michigan, that'd be awesome. Kind of link up all the Northeast Midwest communities around here. And if you want to face me on the tabletop, you go up to North Bay and play in Jesse's one-day tournament.
Yeah,
it's just another 4-hour drive.
Good way it's fine. Good way to turn people off that, mate.
Yeah, Ray Shields and I'll have the tournament pack finalized soon, and that'll be live for the Ontario crew. So we can start planning that out.
And when sign-ups close for the Highlander event, Jesse?
So Digital Throne, we are currently up to about 28 players, and signups are going to close on the beginning of the 17th is when I'll be making the first round of pairings. So we got this coming week to get the signups in. I'm expecting, I mean, I've done a few UB things before, and I find there's a flood in the last couple of days. So
yeah,
yeah,
because there can be, right? You don't need to paint an army. So
yeah, exactly. So I'll be getting some more posts live this week to kind of bump up things, and yeah, hopefully we get a nice turnout for that. It'll be a lot of fun. I highly recommend anybody to come and join us online. It's one game every 2 weeks, so it's nice and manageable, just to kind of keep it clean there. So
yeah, awesome. Well, we might leave it there. So until next time, keep countercharging.